Welcome everyone from around the world and joining us on the Ask The Howlers session. Now this is live, so the first time that we've been live. So now remember, this is a cybersecurity expert roundtable where trusted advisors are going to join me and of course security strategists to discuss the latest threats and security challenges around the world, providing actionable tips and resources, and most importantly, to answer your questions. We have got the Q&A running, and I would love to be able to ask my guests today some of your questions from around the world, so we can test them. We can obviously ask anything that's burning on your minds that you, of course, want to bring to the conversation. Firstly, to introduce myself, my name is James Aliband. I'm a senior security strategist at VMware. Today, the topic today is we're going to discuss the results of our latest research, the Modern Bank Heists 4.0. Before I introduce my guest today, of course, I want to make sure that everybody understands this is a live session. We're going to have unfiltered, untested conversations. We haven't been doing dry runs of this. This is completely unscripted. So let's bring in my two guests. I'm super excited to bring in, first off, Tom Kellermann and Rick McElroy. Tom is the head of cybersecurity strategy at VMware. And also Rick, who's joining us, who's the principal cybersecurity strategist at VMware as well. Guys, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
We're live, James. It's exciting.
We are live, absolutely live, all around the world. How exciting is that? Guys, first and foremost, let's not talk about security right now. Let's talk about this. The pandemic is easing. Conversations that we've had, pandemic is easing around the world. Vaccinations are happening. What are you guys looking forward to most this summer?
Red Rocks. I want to see a concert at Red Rocks.
There you go. There you go. How about you, Rick?
For me, honestly, DEF CON is looking like there's going to be some in-person, and I can throw some hugs to my InfoSec people. It's been far too long since we've gotten together in a room, and I miss everybody in the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing as many of you as I can.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting, right? Vaccinated hugs. It's going to be super exciting. We all feel confident to get back out there as well. Right, let's jump into today's topic. So we've been doing this report for 4 years, of course, for the financial industry. So TK, first and foremost, can you tell us a little bit about the report, how it began, its origin, and why we continue to produce it?
Yeah, sure. Look, everyone looks to the banks for best practice as it relates to cybersecurity. Everyone recognizes the financial institutions of the world have the best cybersecurity and the best cybersecurity personnel. But they're also being hunted and targeted by the very sophisticated cybercrime cartels of Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and South America. And so what can we learn when the financial sector themselves fail in protecting themselves against specific attack groups? Or what can we learn vis-a-vis the new architectural models for security that they implement? And that's really what we try to drive at here.
That's awesome. And it's truly valuable, as we've seen as well. Rick, what do we want to offer the readers of the report, and what do we really want their take home to be?
Well, I think, look, one of the things that we continually focus on as a company, right, is it is important to bring awareness to some of these issues, especially when you see some of these new techniques, tactics, and procedures that the adversaries are using. Typically, finance is going to kind of lead the way on discovering some of those, along with governments. But I think for us, it's about anchoring in like good defense for defenders out there, so that we can learn from some of these other breaches and actually stop them from happening in our environment. And so that's the tack we always take at VMware Carbon Black, and we're going to continue to speak on behalf of the community to get better.
No, it's truly important, isn't it? I think we talk about this a lot about, we're all in this fight together. We certainly over the last 6 months, we've certainly seen that and how the community comes together. What do you think's changed? And this is kind of an open question to either of you, but what do you think's changed? Certainly in this report, what do you think's changed now we've gone into a work from anywhere environment and society? What do we think's changed, and what certainly since the past reports to this report?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying look, we can continually talk about the sophistication, but that's simply an evolution of offensive security, whether it's for good purposes or bad, right? It'll continue to evolve. But I think more importantly is putting together this broader picture that intelligence operations are impacting financial markets, are impacting strategies on investments, shorting organizations because I have some sort of access to internal information that I'm not supposed to have, and then I can make market bets on those. The other thing I think about that has changed too is our continued and I think renewed need for electronic banking, right? Like it impacts all of us, and frankly speaking, during a pandemic, if that chain goes down, good luck ordering anything from Amazon or processing any of the things that good organizations did to stay up and running during the pandemic. So those are the things I think about.
And I would stress that you see this protection racket, this Pax Mafioso between the major cybercrime cartels and specific rogue nation states for the purposes of offsetting economic sanctions. And much to what Rick pointed out there, they're targeting market strategy and non-public market information over 50% of the time, knowing full well that the future of front-running or digital or insider trading can be digitized. This is compounded by a reality that we saw a 118% increase of destructive attacks, whether that's part of counterincident response, where they're burning down the building essentially to cover their tracks or to punish the defender, or whether that's part of geopolitical tension is unbeknownst to me. But Rick, I'll ask you the same question again. Is it geopolitics or is it counterincident response on steroids?
I think it's both. I think both dynamics exist. I think certainly on the APT side, that innovation is fueling the cyber criminals. But over the course of the last year, another interesting phenomenon that we talk about. So we used to say, hey, look, it's a trickle down cyber economy. These advanced nation states who invest millions of dollars and are really focused on a piece of technology are able to do these sophisticated attacks, which everyone else learns from when they're observed in the wild or whatever the case may be. But now what we're seeing is that innovation from cyber criminals fueling APT actors, right? Which I think is a new dynamic that sort of hasn't been observed before. And I think that blend coming together can be devastating for organizations if they're hit by those.
Yeah, there is a Silicon Valley of the East, and it's in St. Petersburg, Russia. And we have to appreciate that the most sophisticated cyber criminals and cyber crime cartels in the world are Russian speaking. They've been targeting financial institutions since electronic finance and straight through processing of 1995. And many times they're used and treated as national assets. But what's most interesting is now they're shifting to actually wanting to commandeer the financial institution's infrastructure as a whole. We asked them for the fourth year in a row, are you seeing island hopping occurring where an adversary is attempting to not only island hop to get to you, but use your infrastructure to attack your customers? And we said, please exclude SolarWinds. And 38% of them noted that had happened to them. So it's quite concerning. And that's often why we reference that the heist has become a hostage situation, because of the nature in which they don't want to leave and they do want to commandeer your environment.
No, absolutely. When I was taking a look through the report, one of the areas that I found truly interesting as well is the digitalization of insider trading as well. TK, can you talk more to that?
Yeah, we need to pay closer attention to behavioral anomalies that are occurring on portfolio managers' machines, or folks that are involved in Forex markets, or those folks who control the market strategies of the given institution every month. They're fully aware now that the most valuable asset of a financial institution is this non-public market information and those market strategies. Just imagine, Bank X is about to take a $10 billion stake in the Swiss franc tomorrow. And if you were to know that and then take a position of your own an hour before that trade is made, you're obviously going to make some money.
No, for sure. It's being ahead of the curve, but of course, the wrong reasons in that sense. Rick, another piece I took out of the report I think is super interesting as well is how organizations should be addressing Kronos attacks as well.
Yeah, this is something that we talk about probably on every one of our internal calls, right? There's some rudimentary reasons that you would mess with time, right? So if I'm an attacker, and I have incident responders. There's some good threat hunters that I think are coming after me. Look, manipulation of data and the timestamps of those allows me to hide, right? Allows me to delete some logs, allows for a gap when I'm searching through something like a SIM, right? But I think we need to think about it a little bit differently, right? So what do we all do? We all sync every single piece of network gear we have to the same time servers, right? So from a denial of service perspective, that becomes interesting. Our backups rely on those same times. So can I interrupt someone's backup process by now starting to manipulate time? And then the other one that I think sometimes doesn't get talked about as much as it should, that I want to highlight with time manipulation, is our reliance on a PKI based infrastructure. So if I'm going to revoke a cert, that cert is absolutely time stamped. It has to be revoked within a certain amount of time so that I can get rid of that access, get rid of the application whitelisting that comes from assigned binary, all of those good things. I'm able to manipulate that, which means some of the controls we have in place when we notice bad behavior to revoke that access to do that starts to become into question. And then I think at the turning it over to TK, what I'd also like to talk about is like integrity based attacks as a result of time as well, right? And so TK, talk a little bit to the audience about your concern with data integrity and manipulation attacks as well.
Yeah, I'm very concerned. We're seeing 118% increase for destructive attacks. That's not limited to ransomware, not Petya style, or wipers. These integrity attacks can extend into the value of time. If you think about the dependency of the financial sector on the value of time to justify the value of capital and currency, let alone the value of trades or positions that have been taken, it's quite significant. The amount of economic damage when economic espionage escalates to economic sabotage is quite pernicious in terms of what is possible. Not sure if that's happening yet or not, but as we see geopolitical tension dramatically increase between essentially, NATO members and Russia, or whether it's between the Quad and China, we need to pay close attention to the integrity of data and if anyone's attempting to manipulate that data.
No, absolutely. I think it's super interesting when we think about it from that point. Guys, there's one area that I did want to focus in as well. And I think it's, all of the findings that we've made and everything that when we drill into this report, now how should the financial industry respond?
Yeah, well, look, there was some encouraging news, right? Like one of the encouraging news is 41% of all financial institutions surveyed have a hunt team. Awesome. Let's get that up to 100%. Other reports that we've done, other surveys where we've gone out to, broader verticals, right? So, i.e., everyone in InfoSec, we're starting to see that as just a good practice now, right? So it's not a nice to have, it's not a must to have, it's just good practice. So now what we need to do is, I think, invest some time and some resources into that program because it does yield fruit. And so we really need to look at it like any other process, any other human-driven activity, and mature what we're doing there. I think moving from individual detectors to stacked detection is a good model for that. And then I think, of course, do an adversary emulation based on the most common threats in your environment with the output of the threat hunters, the incident responders, your SOC team is online at the same time. You can call that purple teaming, you can call it whatever you want. But it's like, let's get from issue identification, adversary emulation to tuning and remediation. And the closer we can get that gap down to minutes, the better off we're gonna be.
And I was heartened to see that actually of those entities that were conducting cyber threat hunts, close to 50% of them were conducting weekly threat hunts, a much more regular cadence of assuring that no one's in the bank vault when they close the doors for the day. This is quintessentially important to regularly conduct these types of threat hunts, to Rick's point. I was also, heartened to hear that over 80% of them are going to increase cybersecurity investment by 10 to 20%. That's going to be in a myriad of things, whether it's technology sets or whether it's human beings. And obviously the human capital shortage is real. But one of the aspects of investment was really this construct of XDR, or integration of network detection response with endpoint protection platforms. I think that type of situational awareness, that type of improved telemetry is quintessentially important when dealing with an adversary that more than likely already has a footprint somewhere in your information supply chain.
Perfect. So with all of that, let's kind of focus it down, I guess, in that perspective. We could give them one, the audience that are watching today, we give them one piece of advice as security experts as you are. What would you give them?
I'd say, go ahead, TK.
Frankly, the worst statistic in this study was the fact that 75% of chief information security officers are still reporting to CIOs. The defensive coordinator is reporting to the offensive coordinator. It's ridiculous. This must end. Use this report as ammunition to essentially wake up the board and your CEO and your chief risk officer as to the importance of your mission. This is your time. Time for you to be uplifted, to be equal to the CIO. This should be your year.
Yeah, and I think for me, if I could wrap it up into one thing, right? And you can wrap MFA under this and continue, but focus on the identity. What are these identities doing? And then I think gaining visibility into what those applications are doing, right? So I think the days of just trusting a third-party application to do exactly what it's supposed to do is over. In both cases, you're going to need visibility to do that. But I think if you can start to get to a better sense of normal, for financial institutions, I think they have a good path. They have extreme amount of AI and machine learning that's been focused on the fraud issues. But I think if we can start to bring those two teams together, the security, operations team, the detection and response and the threat hunt teams, along with these data scientists, that they've already built some of these models, well, awesome. Now I think you can start to get a better understanding of like what is normal in your environment versus is suspicious or malicious. And frankly speaking, they, over the last 15 years, they have done an amazing amount of work on credit card fraud. Awesome. Let's take that same energy, put it into detecting bad. And I think we can get a whole lot better.
Yeah, I think, just to add to that as well, I think for me, if I'm going to offer one piece of advice, I think for me is using technology to break down silos as well. Getting people and teams to work together, collaborate together effectively. I think it's absolutely, it kind of goes into what you said there, TK, in the sense of, making sure the CISO reports into the right place. To put it out there from a global audience perspective, if we think about football, everyone needs to report to the manager. And the same with the offensive defensive coordinator. They need to report to the head coach. He's exactly right. And using tools, I've seen some great examples across the industry of help sec ops teams all reporting to one place. Help desk, development teams, infrastructure teams, and security teams all reporting to a centralized place. So everyone gets a foot at the table, everyone gets the right information, and they can collaborate efficiently as well. Guys, this has been go ahead, good.
The cyber threat hunting exercises are quintessentially important to justify why you need greater resources, to justify why you need greater authorities, and to give you the veto authority over the CIO's latest initiative that might as well just increase the new attack surface.
Absolutely. Guys, let's turn over to the Q&A, but I have got a question first because being our first live session, Tom, I'm gonna turn over to yourself on this one, but can you tell us all and everyone tuning in what it is, what is a howler first and foremost, and what's the meaning behind the name Howlers?
Yeah, the Howler is a community of threat hunters and security experts from around the world who have been trained on the utility of Carbon Black's threat hunting capabilities and EDR capabilities, as well as they share information pro bono with the community at large vis-a-vis threats, defensive countermeasures, and phenomenon. It did begin, the genesis is from Carbon Black, but it's not limited to Carbon Black employees. Again, this is a community. Rick?
Yeah, and secondarily, because this is one of our favorite book series, thank you, TK, for introducing the rest of the company to this. But we have to give credit where it's due. If you've ever read or are looking for something to read, go read the Red Rising series. I can't speak enough about it. Just think Game of Thrones in space, only more awesome. But there is a group that's referenced in there multiple times that is called the Howlers. And essentially, they're sort of the crazy ones that are super passionate about leading those efforts forward, right? Getting other people motivated and following in the same direction. And so we just love that entire group of howlers, and we howl a lot and run our mouths. So we thought it was great for us. Yeah.
No, it's. I think speaking on behalf of that as well, I think it's great to have a platform. Have a platform in the right way to speak about this industry, speak about your feelings in this industry, and cybersecurity in general. It gives everybody that platform, and I think speaking on behalf of all the howlers, I think that is an opportunity we all take in that manner as well. So I'm going to jump into the Q&A, and first and foremost, a question from Tyler. So guys, feel free, whoever wants to answer this first, but in your opinion, does the increasing prevalence of cryptocurrencies increase the overall security due to its security nature, or decrease overall security due to the irreversible nature of the transactions?
Ooh, he asked a big question, right?
What a question.
It's not an easy one there, Tyler. I appreciate it. So look, I guess you have to measure this short-term, long-term. Short term, we can clearly say there's been a bunch of crypto heists. There was one year where I think it was like over $1 billion in crypto was stolen. We know certain nation states are bypassing sanctions with cryptocurrency, right? So again, I don't think that fundamentally speaks to insecurity in the blockchain. I think that speaks to insecurity in how we implement things and do things like exchanges or verify our identities online so that we can open an exchange and all things are legal and regulated. And look, I think long term, it should have, like, if we were all on some standard coin, right? Let's call it Bitcoin for now. It should help to do things like decrease fraud. Right, like that's a thing that should result from that. So I would say give it a long enough timeline, and it will probably be better. But it's gonna be real bumpy getting there, Tyler.
No, that was an awesome question, and thank you, Rick, for answering that as well. Another question that has come in as well is in 2021, what's the what is the biggest security risk or biggest cyber prediction in this year?
I'm most concerned with the inevitability of a public cloud environment being commandeered and being used to distribute destructive malware due to geopolitical tension.
Yeah, I mean, putting ourselves aside as a vendor, look, I think there's some major vendors that should really lean into what happened at SolarWinds and double down on some things that they probably know they need to fix, because there's certain vendors that a whole lot of us rely on and we don't even know about, right? Whether those are backbone infrastructure vendors, whether those are cloud vendors, hardware vendors, and so that's what I think about is cloud jacking is certainly a part of that, I think, to TK's point, but I worry that an even bigger name than SolarWinds is going to get popped this year and used against us.
No, I couldn't agree more.
I'm concerned about the future of Bluetooth attacks. I know it sounds so minor, but given all of us are using devices to transact instead of wallets in the real world, and the nature in which Bluetooth itself can be jacked and can be leveraged near frequency attacks, more work needs to be done there. Either that, or we need to be carrying around lead cases around our phones when we're not using them.
Just imagine that. I used to think about this. I haven't exactly used my car in the last 12 months so much, but I think about driverless cars as well, and the world of being in a position where anything that's got connectivity points to it leaves you in such a vulnerable position in reality. And that I kind of in the position where I'm sitting at home going, well, you know what, it's not a bad place to be in a certain way.
And I do think you're going to see much more targeted attacks. We talked about targeted attacks for years, and we think about them typically for like an email address associated with an executive. But given the amount of information that's been stolen, most people can figure out where you live. So what's going to happen when people are targeting your home environment so that they can island hop into your corporate environment? And how many of us are actually practicing digital distancing, like segregating all of our smart devices on one network of the house and only using one network for our work device and for financial transactions? It's highly problematic that the lack of security in IoT and OT and the nature in which someone can purposely hack your house to get into your corporation.
Yeah, we almost take connectivity for granted in that perspective without adding the element of security. And it's almost a comfort level as well. Now we're sitting at home, that comfort level that you've always been in that environment. When you're in the office, it's done for you. Now, of course, we're not in that position at all. Guys, as we wrap up today, is there anything that you want to add, closing remarks, anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I think my last thought is I've been doing this a while. I think I'm 23 years in, and I don't remember another time in InfoSec that's been this crazy, where the hits just keep coming. It seems like multiple times a week. We've seen so many 0 days this year already. I'm going to back the train up to December when the news of SolarOne hits, and then Exchange, and then F5. And so for all of the people in the community that are out there doing all the hard work, take it easy on yourself. Practice some self-forgiveness, because it is a hard challenge in time. We're going to need some help to get through it from our government, from other governments, but lean into your peers. If you need help, reach out. The Howlers are really here to speak on behalf of the community. Hopefully our reports are there for you to use as ammo to go into your organization, to have some external validation on the things that you're trying to accomplish. But take care of each other. Take care of your teammates, and try to take some time off. I know it's tough, but just take care of each other. That's my big advice for the year.
I would say, given the nature of everything transitioning to cloud-based infrastructure due to the pandemic, workload security and improving workload security is going to be of paramount importance, coupled with can you protect your identities, per Rick's point earlier, in real time by integrating capabilities like just-in-time administration to your EDR and endpoint protection platform?
Guys, that's been absolutely awesome. And honestly, it's been an absolute honor to have you guys on the first live stream. I think the audience has taken a lot from today. We've had some awesome questions that have come in as well, challenging questions, which is always good. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. We look forward to jumping on in May, where we're going to have some new guests on the session. We're going to be able to talk more into cybersecurity. And of course, don't forget as well, in the comment section, the Modern Bank Heist 4.0 report is there. The report's there. Download it, take a read through. And of course, reach out if there's any questions you have, anything you want to know more about. We're all, as Rick said earlier, we're all here to help and make the world a safer place. So thank you for joining. Thank you for listening in, and we'll see everyone soon. Take care.